Hi, I'm Stephanie Sahano, certified heartwork journaling coach and instructor, and the owner of Sacred Self Healing Personal Coaching. My contact information is on this slide, and I will use it again at the end of my presentation. Today, I'd like to talk to you about boundaries through the lens of people pleasing. Let's start at the beginning. All people want safety. We thrive when we are in connection with others at whatever level feels right for us. We are able to be our fullest, most authentic selves when we feel safe. Our nervous system is able to recover from hurts in the context of feeling safe. Our goal as young people was to stay connected to our grown-ups because that provided the best chance for our survival. That is a normal survival strategy for humans. Unfortunately, as young people, we all experience hurts and moments, however long, when we didn't feel safe. If we didn't have a safe home life, our needs for safety went unmet a lot of the time. Even if we had a fairly safe home life, there were undoubtedly moments when our grown-ups were not able to meet our needs and we experienced feeling unsafe. We tried out different things to see what might bring us back into connection with our grown-ups. Some things we tried worked, at least some of the time. Because they worked, even if inconsistently, we tried them over and over and over, and they became our patterns. It's wonderful that we were able to find some things that worked at least some of the time. The fact that we are here today is proof that they worked. Well done, you, for figuring those things out. You made it here, and that's worth celebrating. Now that we are older, we have the opportunity to look at our patterns and decide if they are still serving us or if we'd like to explore other options. Let's look at the patterns of people-pleasing that have been serving us, to some extent, up until now, to see if we want to keep going with them or if we want to change them. I'm going to show you some of the things that I've experienced myself. I've represented myself in these images as the little avatar in purple and blue. As I share with you some of these things I've experienced, see if you can relate to any of them. This people-pleasing pattern is saying yes to everything, even when you don't want to do it or don't have the energy or attention for everything people are asking you to do. It can feel like you're trying to keep all the plates spinning, but some are crashing to the ground. This people-pleasing pattern is not standing up for yourself, so people take advantage of you. I've represented this in the image as me being a doormat. This people-pleasing pattern is overthinking things, being indecisive, and or not having an opinion or preference, going along with whatever everyone else wants to do. I've represented this group of experiences with a giant thought bubble full of words that, if you read them, actually communicate no information, preference, or opinion. This people-pleasing pattern is feeling like you're responsible for other people's emotions so that you have to be careful of everything you say or do. I've represented this in the image as me walking on eggshells. This people-pleasing pattern is feeling like you're responsible for other people's actions, so you have to be careful of everything you say or do. I've represented this in the image as me trying to avoid stepping on landmines. Boundaries are the key to breaking out of these patterns. You get to decide if these patterns will serve you or not. If you'd like other options, I invite you to continue watching this presentation. Next, let's do a thought experiment. You're welcome to do this with your eyes open or closed, or perhaps in a soft gaze. Please choose whatever feels safest and right for you. Imagine that you are stroking the face of someone you love. It could be a person, an animal, or even a stuffed animal. Notice how tenderly you stroke this beloved face. Notice how much love and care you put into each stroke. Now turn your attention to your own face and stroke your own face with the same love, tenderness, and care that you used when stroking the face of the beloved one you just imagined during the thought experiment. I invite you to notice that you are just as deserving of love and tenderness as the one whose face you were stroking. I invite you to notice that you are also your own beloved. I invite you to consider that you are sacred. When you feel complete with this exercise, please bring your attention back to the room. You can wiggle your fingers and toes. Let your eyes flutter open if they were closed. And then bring your attention back to the screen. Take as much time as you need to come back to the screen. Everything in my life changed when I noticed that I was sacred. That was the thought I chose, which led to a cascade of changes in the way I treated myself and allowed other people to treat me. Noticing that I am sacred is what has empowered me to set and maintain boundaries for myself. With that in mind, let's look back at some of the people-pleasing scenarios we looked at earlier. Here's the one about saying yes to everything that anyone asks of you. This can be an exhausting way to live. Often, it doesn't leave time for self-care or the things you want to prioritize for yourself. What might be another option? Finding and using my no. Rather than using unclear language or saying yes to keep everyone happy, experiment with saying no. You might think that people will be disappointed if you say no. That may be true. Here's a chance for you to experiment with trusting that they can handle their own disappointment. At first, it might feel awkward to both of you because it's unfamiliar, but over time you will get used to it, and so will the people in your life. Also, when you say no to things that are beyond your capacity or that do not interest you, people will know that when you say yes, you mean yes. Using your no means your yes is trustworthy. Here is the image of me as a doormat, not able to stand up for myself. I allowed people to take advantage of me, and I put other people's needs ahead of my own. I didn't prioritize myself at all. I sacrificed myself for others. It didn't create the results I wanted of having people care about me or prioritize me. There was really no way my actions could have created the result I wanted. Others didn't respect me, and I didn't respect myself. After working on boundaries, I realized that I do matter. I put myself on the priority list in the top slot. Now I make sure that I take care of myself, and only after I've taken care of myself do I do things for others. I'm not sacrificing myself anymore. Here's the image of me overthinking things, not being able to make a decision or make up my mind or have an opinion. I was always worried about what people would think of me, that I might make a mistake, that people might disagree with me, that I had to get it right, that I had to avoid offending anyone. It was impossible for me to make decisions or have opinions in this context. The pressure was much too great for me to find my clear thinking. I can feel my heart racing as I say this because the pressure was unbearable. Here's what I know to be true. I am good to the core. So are you. Making mistakes does not erase or threaten that inherent goodness. Growth only happens when we try new things, and that means mistakes are going to happen if we want to grow. If someone has a different opinion and I feel resourced enough to hear it, that's really important. If I feel resourced enough to hear it, it might be a growth opportunity for me. But I won't know about that growth opportunity unless I say something, make a decision, or have an opinion. I won't know that there might be another way to look at the situation. I have to be open to conversation in order to broaden my perspective. And sometimes when we do have conversations like this, it can clarify for me that I want to stick with my original thought or opinion. If it's something like deciding on what to have for dinner and I decline to have an opinion, I might think I'm making it easy for everyone by just going along. In reality, though, it often doesn't work like that. The other people involved can feel burdened by always having to make the decisions. And over time, I can build up resentment that my preferences are not being taken into account. But they can't be taken into account if I'm not willing to state what they are. Once I started making decisions and stating my opinions, I found that life went more smoothly for me much of the time. My needs were met much more often when I asked for what I wanted. People became interested in what I had to say. I realized that I have an important voice and that it's a benefit to the world for me to allow it to be heard. It takes courage to have an opinion or make a decision. I've grown braver over time. Now I'm even confident that my ideas and opinions matter. That's why I'm doing this presentation. Here's the slide of me walking on eggshells again. This is about trying to move through the world so carefully that nobody's feathers get ruffled. This is about me trying to achieve emotional safety by making sure that I don't do anything to upset or anger someone. This is closely related to the next image. This is me trying to move through the world without stepping on any landmines, moving so carefully that no one can possibly feel justified in attacking me. The truth is, people's reactions and responses are caused by their thoughts, not by what I say or do. Their emotions are caused by their thoughts. Their behaviors are driven by their emotions, which are caused by their thoughts. There is nothing I can say or do that would justify someone attacking me verbally, emotionally, or physically. Another option is always available. They could choose to walk away, get the space they need to feel their feelings and compose themselves, and later to come back to talk again when they feel calmer. It's simply not okay for anyone to attack anyone else. Perhaps you're thinking, that's all well and good, but how do I set a boundary? Let's look at that next. We've explored some ideas about why boundaries serve us and those around us. Now let's explore how to use them effectively. We will begin with distinguishing between threats, requests, and boundaries. In life, there are times when we need to negotiate, and there are times when we need to say stop and no when what's happening isn't okay. Boundaries are for me. They are not against you. Boundaries are not about other people. They are something we provide for ourselves. Let's look at that a little more closely. There are some things we need to tease apart so we can be really clear about boundaries. Boundaries are a tool we get to use to allow people into our lives in a way that we can handle and create as much safety for ourselves as possible. Without boundaries, there's a higher likelihood that we would have to cut people out of our lives. With boundaries in place, we can keep people we want in our lives in a way that works for us. Let's first explore threats. Threats are manipulative strategies for forcing someone to do something under duress. This is a way of ensuring that one gets one's way, but it is unhealthy and harms the target of the threat. It harms the relationship and it harms the person making the threat. It's a lose-lose-lose situation. Some examples are forcing someone to do something to avoid the consequences of physical violence, damaged possessions, silent treatment, or blocking access to people or animals that someone loves. In this image, I've represented someone giving me the silent treatment. That's a manipulative tactic because someone, in this case my doodle avatar, is getting hurt. And though they might not realize it, so are the people giving me the silent treatment. This is an unhealthy relationship dynamic. It's very common in situations like family violence, school bullying, cyberbullying, and high conflict divorces. An example is one person threatening someone if they don't behave perfectly. Frequently, the behavioral expectations are not clearly stated. We see this when a young person wants to be a part of a group but doesn't do exactly what the group leader wants and is therefore shunned and given the silent treatment. This is very harmful to everyone involved. This is a frequently used strategy in situations of family violence as well. If you want help figuring out other ways to get your needs met and you want to stop using threats, or if someone is using threats to control you, please go to my website and send me a message. The contact information you will need will be on the final slide of this presentation. Next, let's explore requests. Requests are things you ask for. They don't have much power, but they also don't need much power. Genuine requests allow for both yes and no as acceptable answers. If people are getting along well, sometimes requests are all that's required. Each person can ask for things in order to get their needs met. I represented that in this image as a chain with a paperclip as a link. It works well to keep the chain in place as long as no tension is applied. As an example, will you please wash the dishes and put them away? The person asked can say yes or no. There was no threat. There's room for negotiation here. The person asked might say, I don't have the energy for it tonight. I'll do it tomorrow. Or they might say, how about if I wash the dishes while you empty the wastebaskets? If it had been a threat, the person might have said, wash the dishes and put them away, or I'm going to smash them. Finally, let's explore boundaries. Boundaries are something one puts in place and communicates to the person who is not treating you in the way you want to be treated. They start like a request in that one states specifically what one wants. However, there's an addition of the description of how one will take care of oneself if the request is not met. There is only room for a yes here if the people are going to stay connected. If the answer is no, then the person establishing the boundary must follow through with what they said they would do. Here's an example. If someone is using name calling, a boundary might be, please don't use name calling with me. If you continue to call me names, I'm going to hang up the phone. If the person using name calling is in agreement, the conversation can continue with no name calling. However, if the person using name calling continues to use name calling, the person who set the boundary can say, that was name calling again. As I said, I won't be staying on the call with someone who's using name calling. I'm hanging up now. Then they must hang up. If they don't hang up, then it really wasn't a boundary. The person using name calling then knows that the boundaries being set are weak and meaningless, and they won't heed them. Nothing will change. If the person setting the boundary does hang up, then the person using name calling will know that this is a serious boundary. While this may be uncomfortable when it's a new experience, over time it does get easier. Over time, one has to do less work to remind people that one's boundaries have weight and mean something. Over time, people will grow to respect one's boundaries. I've been using boundaries in my family for several years now. People in my family easily respect my boundaries, and when I need to, I still leave the room. It wasn't easy to do at first, and still sometimes it isn't easy, but it's really effective. Life is much cleaner and clearer for all of us. Let's review. The fact that you figured out ways to survive is magnificent and to be celebrated. People-pleasing behaviors are efforts to be connected with others. You are valuable. You really matter. We get to decide if we want to continue with people-pleasing or make other choices. When we change the relationship dynamic, it can feel really uncomfortable, and everyone else involved might try to get you to fall back in line. I've represented that in this image with me rocking the boat and everybody else in the family saying, quit rocking the boat, trying to bring me back in line. Here's a summary of the strategies for overcoming people-pleasing. Finding and using your no, putting yourself on the priority list and remembering that you matter. Remembering that mistakes do not erase your inherent goodness. And remembering that people are responsible for their own thoughts, emotions, and actions. Threats are unhealthy for everyone and ineffective for achieving and maintaining connection. Requests are useful when there is harmony in the moment. Boundaries are necessary when requests aren't adequate. Boundaries are actually gifts for everyone involved. Thank you for watching this presentation on boundaries through the lens of people-pleasing. This is a new way of thinking and can be difficult to implement without support. If you'd like additional support in using boundaries effectively, please contact me through my website at sacred-self.com. Send me an email at Stephanie, which is STEPHANIE, at sacred-self.com, or call me at 425-331-9939. And if you're outside of the United States, please use the country code +1. We can have a conversation to see if we would be a good fit for working together. I wish you much success in being at choice when it comes to people-pleasing behaviors and using boundaries for the benefit of everyone involved, including you.